Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to another episode of Intuitive Creator Spotlight. If you're new to our channel, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, ring the notification bell to stay connected with us and to get notified every time we post amazing content like this. And I say amazing because especially in this playlist, Intuitive Creator Spotlight, I invite fabulous guests to share their stories, and every single story is healing and inspiring. Today we have with us beautiful Jen. Jen is an intuitive coach based in the UK. She went from a successful 20-year marketing career to the realm of coaching and spiritual awakening. I am so happy to have you here, Jen. Welcome to this interview.
Thank you so much. I've been so excited about coming here and chatting with you and your community. So thank you so much for inviting me. I am delighted to be here.
Yes, there is always a reason why people connect with each other. And then in our case, we also decided to record this interview together. So Jen, can you please tell us about a key moment in your transition from that successful marketing career to becoming an intuitive coach?
Oh yeah, of course. So like so many of these stories begin in 2015, December 2015, I burnt out. It was messy, it was life-changing, it was dark and heavy, and there were snot bubbles and loads of fear and all of the stuff that comes with a breakdown and a breakthrough. And I'm not going to dress it up. It was awful, but it was the best thing that ever happened for me because it gave me space, and it gave me a new beginning. So, for any of your audience who work with tarot, it was the classic tower card. Like my world came crashing down, but it was the best destruction because it cleared the way for me to build a new foundation.
And sometimes those moments can be very scary because everything is going down and you're like, okay, where am I going from here? And yet somehow we are given those moments in our experience so that we can then find new strength to move forward with that. And so I know that then you made the transition to a spiritual path and career. What was the first step, like after you've seen everything going down, collapsing? What really made you think, you know what, now I'm going to start a new path, a new life?
Yeah, and it was quite the journey because for anyone that's ever been in that kind of burnout situation or that kind of dark night of the soul moment in their journey, it's about re-identifying and getting to know yourself again. So that really was the first step. And I was asking myself questions like, what makes me happy? What do I enjoy? And who am I? And they were big questions. They were really big questions, but they were the ones that I compassionately and consistently explored to help me get to know me again and recognize that I had this kind of pivotal moment in my life to choose differently. And so I did very differently. But the common theme that just kept coming through again and again was about helping other people. And so then the universe started delivering, as it does, these wonderful synchronicities. And I had this opportunity to attend a taster weekend to become a life coach. And so I did. That's what I chose. That's the path. I took the step once I'd worked out who I was again, got to know me again, learned that what I wanted to do with my life was help people, and then took action on an aligned opportunity.
And there was something that you mentioned in your message just now, that you did that. You stepped through every single stage of your transformation with compassion. And I know that compassion and love and empathy, these are huge things for you and for your business. And more than that, you also had a TED talk about the importance of introducing love and compassion in businesses in general and in the world. Why is this so important for you?
Oh, yeah, what a journey. I think, yes, the very first word of my TEDx is love. That's the very first word. And I had come from a background in corporate and in a very masculine energy. And that's no fault of anybody. It's just that I learned to really lean into my own masculine energy as a coping mechanism and as a strategy that I believed was, the best way. And of course, none of this was conscious. None of this was an intentional, I know I'm going to behave in this way at all. It was just, conditioning and learned behavior. But I recognized throughout my corporate career that there was so much focused on numbers and rationale and logic and analytics, which there is, of course, a place for that. But it was so out of balance, and my intuition wasn't considered of any value, so much so that I didn't value it either. And so I started to ignore my emotions and feelings, including those very powerful emotions and feelings like anger and outrage, injustice, those kind of emotions and experiences that I just learned to suppress and bury. And of course, then the result of that is that I became very protected and defensive and ultimately became numb, couldn't really feel anything. And that's when I burnt out. So, the feelings and emotions then became was like my window to the soul of the world. And I recognized, oh my goodness, if we learn how to feel again, and we learn not to be frightened of our feelings and emotions, and not to see them as positive or negative, but just as emotions, oh my goodness, wouldn't we live in a different world? And so it has become my passion to work with our emotions, and love, kindness, and compassion are the foundation for me.
Wow, what a courageous step as well, because to go from that space where everything is more rigid and yes, no judgment there, it's just like an observation, right? Where everything is more structured, rigid, masculine energy, to then say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to shift something, I'm going to change something not only within myself, but in the world as well. That takes a lot of courage. So may I ask you this, Jen? When you shared that talk, the TEDx talk, where were you at in your journey? How would you
Yes.
describe that moment in your journey and transformation?
Oh, Stella, it's such a great question. Thank you. Because not many people know this. Very few people know this, actually. But so I delivered that TEDx in 2018, and I channeled the entire talk. It was given to me, channeled through me. You can read it on my blog on my website as a blog. You can watch the recorded TEDx on YouTube. But I was very firmly in my spiritual closet. I didn't tell anyone that I channeled that talk and that content, that message, I knew it was coming from spirit, coming through me, and I didn't tell anyone.
Ooh. So what kind of challenges or moments, difficulties maybe you've experienced as you then decided to step out of that spiritual closet, and how did you deal with them?
Yeah, I think it's a really important part of the journey. And I know it's important for me to speak about it and share it, because I know there'll be hundreds and thousands of others in a very similar position to the one I was in. So, I'd come from this pretty institutionalized, conditioned place and way of living and identity, if you like. And so I was in judgment of myself. I was the stories that I was saying to myself were things like, people won't take me seriously. I won't be considered as intelligent. That's a big thing for me personally. My business will fall apart. Everybody will leave and think I'm crazy. And yeah, I just can't. I can't tell people that this is my true self. I was embarrassed and in fear energy, essentially.
Mm. What did you experience in terms of relationships and connections with people? Because you mentioned about all of these fears, if people will judge you, how will they think, what will they think about you? So how did you navigate certain relationships in your life at that point?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because, again, none of it was particularly intentional or conscious. So the first thing that I reminded myself of, which was actually very logical and came from my marketing background, was, like my business, I've built all of it across social media. And I'm still very prevalent on social media as a communication tool. And so I reminded myself, my clients and my audience aren't in judgment of me. They need me to say this. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to serve these people. These people from perhaps my past corporate career or even, friendships, they're not my clients. They're not the people who need to hear my message. I'm not talking to them. So, I had to just consistently remind myself, these are the people that I'm talking to. And yes, it might only be 2 or 3 to begin with, but it will grow, especially if I trust in my intuition and what I'm feeling about this.
Absolutely. And as you go through your journey, sometimes those people who like never thought about these things, they will just come to you one day and say, "Oh, actually, I think I needed that too." And that sometimes this happens too. But did you also have people telling you, "Hey, Jen, you look different, you sound different, like you are look like a completely different person"? And if you've had this kind of comments, how did you respond to those?
Yeah, so I didn't receive that many. I think a lot of it was because I really leapt out of my spiritual closet at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm.
So in many respects, I was quite isolated, so it became quite easy to do in many respects. A couple of family members, I think, from a beautiful place, a very caring place, reached out to me and were concerned about my mental health and essentially brought my worst fears into reality. But actually, I recognize now, of course, I didn't at the time, but of course, I'm so grateful for them for doing that because it helped me to overcome it and speak my truth and say, no, I don't have mental health issues. This is just who I truly am. But thank you for caring. Thank you.
Oh, I love that you responded with love, right? Because you said, thank you for caring. And I can totally understand when, people at the beginning of our journeys into like when we embrace completely this spiritual path, they would tell us things like, oh, are you okay? Because obviously, when we trust our intuition, we may see, hear, things and we may just say random stuff and then they suddenly happen and they're like, you're weird, or I mean, at least this is what happened to me. And I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, and maybe if I wouldn't be familiar with something like that, I don't know how I would react. I just don't know. But yeah, like from our place, it takes that time to kind of breathe in and respond. So I know that you connect with your intuition so much, Jen, and I know that your, let's say, spiritual journey, even if it was not on the conscious level, it was more subconscious, started when you were very young, when you connected with your guardian angel. How did that contribute to the path that you are on right now?
It's yeah, I'm laughing because it sounds like such a beautiful, magical, serene experience, and it wasn't. It wasn't. Absolutely shit myself at the time.
Mm.
It was so scary. But yes, so that experience, I was 14 years old. And when you're in that just dropping off to sleep stage, which as we know is the intuitive brainwave, the theta brainwave, when you're in that vibrational frequency of being able to communicate with the universe. And in that state, I heard my name called out loud, and it was a man. Yeah, it was a man's voice. So 14 years old in my bedroom, and I hear a man's voice calling out my name. So I sat bolt right up in bed. I just remember that kind of sharp intake of breath, and sat up. And as I sat up, there was this enormous, and looking back at it now, it was beautiful, blue, like orb, like huge, just hovering at the end of my bed. And, my memory of that feeling is beautiful and incredible because now I know what it was. But at the time, it was like, holy, I was really scared because I'd never, I'd never experienced anything like that before. I'd never even had any conversations about angels or spirit guides or anything like that ever before. But from that moment on, my intuitive senses were switched on with a great big huge neon button.
Clearly, the universe wanted you to experience that strong moment at that age to then know that there is so much more in your inner world and in your capacities and abilities than you can see with the physical eye. So how did you develop or grow your connection with your guardian angel
I
after that?
think I ignored it for a long
Mhm.
time and kind of, stuck my fingers in my ears really, because I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. And, this was like in the days before the internet, so I couldn't hop onto Google and research anything. What did come around for me, so I did speak to my best friend about it, and she said to me, oh, my mum sees like a medium. Oh, I'll have a chat with her. And it was actually my best friend's mum who then actually she lent me some books by Doris Stokes. I don't
Mm.
know if you remember her. She was a well-renowned medium back in the 80s, I think 70s and 80s. So I read some of her books, and it kind of helped me recognize that what I was experiencing wasn't that strange, actually, and there were other people. And then my best friend's mum took me to see her medium, and we had a conversation, and she told me about my spirit guides and, my soul team. And yeah, I guess so I was 18 by that point. And so from that kind of moment in my life and in my journey, I would just have those kind of private conversations with my spirit guides or my soul team. um you
This
know
is so beautiful. And, I love that you shared your story, because if there is anyone who's watching our video and they're thinking, oh my God, I'm seeing these things. Maybe I'm scared sometimes when I'm seeing them. Am I crazy, or like what's going on? This message, your message, may inspire them and give them that sense of calmness, and to confirm to them that, there is nothing to worry about. All you have to do is to continue to be curious and explore with love and compassion, which is so, so beautiful to infuse into everything that we do. And I also know, Jen, that you connect very much with animal and nature, and you work with these elements. You infuse them, you include them in your work. Would you like to tell us how you do that? How do you work with the elements of nature
mm,
and with your
yeah,
clients?
yeah, so, oh, nature, my greatest love. So when I burnt out, back in 2015, that big snot bubbly mess, my life until that point had been, very work focused. I would get up at a crazy time in the morning. I would do like a hardcore workout. I think I was like on my yoga mat doing hardcore workouts, not yoga, at 5:30 in the morning, and then be in my car on the M25, trying to get to the office as quick as possible, do, at least a 7-8 hour day, come home, carry on working. And at the weekend, then, would be about socializing, playing just as hard as I was working. And my soul was empty. There was no soul nourishment at all. And so when I burnt out, nature became my greatest healer. And the power is almost indescribable of being able to reach a level of self-acceptance and experience unconditional love just by standing outside, because that's essentially what happened for me. And I promised myself every day, if anyone's ever been in burnout, or that dark night of the soul, or a breakdown, the exhaustion is real and getting out of bed is tough. So, but I promised myself every day, even if it was just to stand outside in the garden, that's what I would do. And I would experience nature. And it just gradually built up, and I would walk. And I noticed my mental health improving tenfold through the exercise, but by being in nature, because in that space, there was no judgment, only the acceptance that is unconditional love, which is the very definition of nature, of Mother Earth, right?
Mm.
And so further along my journey, and I share this in detail, my whole story, in my online book, the universe introduced me to my first spiritual mentor, Claire. And Claire said to me one day, when I was, waxing lyrical about the wonders of nature and the birds that I'd seen, and the deer and the trees, and like with this childlike enthusiasm. And she said to me, you talk to animals, right?
Mhm.
And I burst out laughing, absolutely burst out laughing. And it was like, don't be ridiculous. I can't talk to animals. And she was like, no, you already are. You just don't know that you are. And it wasn't until I started exploring that with her that I realized I was in this kind of constant communication with nature. And then realizing, oh, not everybody's doing that.
Mhm.
Wow. So I kind of woke up to that. And then I became very intentional about it. And so I went on a training course, an interspecies communication, and, learned to hone and refine my skills. But essentially, all animal or interspecies communication is feelings. It's about working with heart energy, with the kinesthetic connection. That's its, foundation. So if you've got a heart and a consciousness, you can communicate with animals and trees and plants and
I love
nature.
this. I love this so much. Thank you for bringing this message here because, yes, if any of us are ever wondering, can I communicate with this tree here, with the animals? I just love that you brought this into this video that, yes, it is possible. If you were to think back to all the messages that you've received from nature, from animals, from everything around you, what would you say is something that keeps coming back for yourself or for your clients in
Mm.
terms of message?
Um, so I think birds. Birds are they're so well, look, our whole environment is metaphorical, right? So I pay close attention to what's happening in my environment, even down to my houseplants, because everything in your environment is a reflection of your subconscious, right? And your inner thoughts and feelings. And so, birds are a consistent one because they have the ability to be up high and on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they connect to both, and I think they show us the perfect balance of being up here in the ethereal, wonderful, magical realms, but also with our feet on the ground too. And bringing that perfect balance. But of course, they also, it's that age-old saying, a bird's eye view. A
Mm-hmm.
bird's eye view. I think they give us a brilliant window into being able to see the bigger picture.
Yes, I love that to see the bigger picture. And so, with this in mind, to see the bigger picture, if you think about your time when you experienced the burnout and then you went from that point to then becoming aware that there is something wrong to then wanting to connect with nature, finding a mentor, connecting with your intuition more. Obviously, there are some stages that you went through. What would you advise or suggest to somebody who is at that point in their life going through burnout? Yes, maybe they know that, yeah, they may want to connect with their intuition more, but as you shared in your story as well, it just doesn't happen overnight, right? So what kind of message would you share with someone who is going through burnout?
Yeah, thank you. It's such an important question. So the first thing I want to say to those people is it is only the strongest that burn out. It is not a sign of weakness in any way. It is the absolute opposite of that. What I have learned, because I've burnt out twice now, and what I've learned for myself and what I've now witnessed in others is this common theme that burnout happens because of determination, carrying on, keep on going, pushing through. These are behaviors of very strong, determined people. So that's the first thing. You are stronger than you know, and you are strong enough to get through this. And a really powerful reframe I want to offer is, if you are strong enough to have stayed in the situation for as long as you did, you are strong enough to make a change. And so give yourself permission to do that, right? But, big, huge but, you don't need to do it today or tomorrow. You need to just let it unfold. So meet yourself where you're at right now and accept it.
Oh, that is powerful. It really is. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this from your heart, because I can feel it as you're talking about it. It's a process, right? We can't just push a button and then magically things will disappear or appear or something like that. It is a process. And I know that you are helping so many beautiful souls now on their path. Would you like to share with us a story, or like how it's called in coaching, success story from some of the people you worked with? If you want to just share one story, or you can share the name or no name, it's up to you. But just to give us an example of what that can look like to work with you and to go through this process with you.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you. I have been so blessed to work with so many amazing women. And, I don't want to share just one story, but I will share, particularly for my priestesses who come through my training. Many of them, so they all started in my spiritual club, which is my space. I created that space that my 14-year-old needed, but definitely my 40-year-old needed, of, oh my God, I'm experiencing visions and feelings and, hearing things that I don't understand. So these women came into spiritual club with fear, and they were in that judgment place of, people think I'm nuts. I think I'm nuts. I don't understand this, but I know I'm here for a reason, and I know I'm experiencing these visions and visitations and seeing these things or feeling these things or hearing these things for a reason. And I sense there is something greater than me that is driving me. And I want to harness it. Like, it's that sort of equal, oh, this is really weird, to, oh my God, this is so fascinating, I want to know everything. And these women, and I am thinking of two in particular, but these women have come into my world and they've embraced the practices, they've done the work, and they've given themselves time and space to do it with love and compassion. And they have learned who they are. They know who they are. And as a result of that, they are so confident in themselves. They have self-belief. And these women would call themselves introverts, but they are, which is wonderful, but they've learned how to work with that energy and alchemized it into their strength. So now these women are running their own successful businesses. They are helping others and utilizing the tools. I will share one specific example, actually, because it was so powerful just this weekend. One of my clients, Anna, is a celebrant, and she focuses on funerals. That's her main work. And she had the very challenging and difficult scenario of having to hold a funeral for a child. And right, it doesn't get any more challenging than that for anyone involved. And so she shared her journey. of meeting with the parents, designing and writing the service for them and for the little boy. And she then shared with my community as well, like how she utilized all of her spiritual tools, all that she'd learned in her priestess training that allowed her to hold this space for these grieving people, and especially the parents, and held the most beautiful space for them to allow them to begin their grieving. Sat at my corporate desk 8 years ago, Stella, I would never in a million years have even perceived that I would be able to facilitate somebody learning that about themselves and being able to do that themselves.
This is magical. What a beautiful gift to the world. And as you can see, it has a ripple effect. You are creating the space. These people come in, they connect with each other, with themselves, with their own gifts. And then they continue to share their own gifts with the world. What a beautiful thing to share. And thank you for sharing this example and this story. I'm very grateful you did that. And now, as we are wrapping up this episode, I would invite you, Jen, to share just an inspiring message with everyone that watches us, anything that comes to you. And I know that everything that you share in terms of talks, you channel that, you share that from your connection with yourself and divine. So is there anything you'd like to share with everyone who's watching us?
Yeah, and I think it's really simple, and I have mentioned it already. You are strong enough. You are strong enough, regardless of your trauma, regardless of your background, regardless of your start in life, or even where you're at right now. You are strong enough.
Thank you. Thank you for every story and every message that you shared with us today, Jen. It's been an absolute pleasure to create this interview with you, and I appreciate you being here today with us. To everyone who's watching us, thank you for being here. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring the notification bell. Sending you all lots and lots of hugs. Take care. Bye-bye.